the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show with your hosts Maurice, Patton, and Wade Neely. Proudly presented each week by our friends at the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
Hey, welcome into the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice, Patton. We are presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. We have made it through the 11-week regular season of high school football here in Southern Middle Tennessee, and now it's playoff time.
Playoffs are here, and
playoffs.
Yeah, what a season it was! But the playoffs are right upon us, and a lot, as you predicted last week, a lot of drama in the final week. We had 9 weeks to kind of decide a lot of things, but the last 2 of the regular season really went a long way, as several region races were decided, and obviously the playoff bursts that go along with them.
Absolutely, and we did have some drama because we had some championships decided. We had some berths decided. We had some folks that didn't get berths, unfortunately. And yeah, a lot of drama, as you know, as the end of the regular season typically brings, because as much as you'd like to take care of business early, it doesn't always happen. You're not always able to, and sometimes you don't take care of business at all, as a couple of our teams learned the hard way. So we will be discussing the final week of the regular season and how that went, and we'll be discussing the first round of the state playoffs, as we have a handful of teams involved in that. So looking forward to it when we continue here on Main Street, on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, again presented by the 10 Pin Alley and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Stay tuned.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services, from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia, but now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Welcome back into the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, presented by 10 Pin Alley and the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Again, that's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice, Patton. Final weekend of the regular season was so good that we had to get 2 nights of it.
Mm-hmm.
Starting on Thursday night as Mount Pleasant went to Loretto in a key Region 5 2A contest. Mount Pleasant, with a win, could have finished as high as number 2 in the region, assuring themselves of a home game on their new artificial turf. Instead, Loretto gets out to a 14-0 lead and pretty well holds that margin throughout in a 28-12 victory. And Mount Pleasant falls into a 3-way tie with Loretto and Lewis County, to whom they had also lost. The Tigers are the odd man out.
Yeah,
Home for the holidays.
Yeah, you never want to leave things to chance, and the fact that you pretty much controlled your own destiny, man, that is a tough way for Mount Pleasant to end. And then, as devastating as the loss was, then you start scoreboard watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, holy cow, this is happening. Holy cow, this is happening. And then you start looking, at the playoff possibilities chart on TWSAA, and you're like, oh my goodness, we're the ones left out. That is a worst case scenario for any high school football program. And unfortunately, that happens to Mount Pleasant on Thursday night.
It's a tough scenario to deal with. Congratulations to the Mustangs
For sure.
for taking care of their business. Mason Tidwell throws for a couple of touchdowns early, runs for a couple of touchdowns late. The Mustangs, we've talked about their offensive capabilities, and they showed those through, a drizzling rain throughout on Thursday night. Apparently, that's just part of the territory for Loretto football at home. If they're at home, it rains, is what I was told. But, yeah, took the first drive, went down and scored again, and I think it was 21-6 at the half. And Mount Pleasant just never really got anything going consistently. Another nice performance from the sophomore quarterback, J.P. Easterling, but just not enough offensively there for the Tigers. And that was kind of their bugaboo all season. They just could not produce offensively on a consistent enough basis to beat the people that they had to beat. I mean, they lose to Lewis County 8-6.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the 2 losses that really got them. That one and this one here. I mean, they lost to East Hickman, but almost everybody lost to East Hickman. Almost. We'll talk about them more in a second. But yeah, tough way to go out for Mount Pleasant. They finished the year 6-4 with that loss. Loretto 6-4 as well. And they advance into the state playoffs. So,
yeah, it was a good win for Loretto. We knew it would be a hard-fought game, right? And I watched a little bit of the second half on TV, and as I'm watching, number one, obviously the rain. Who knows how much of a factor that really played, but you got to play the game. You got to play the game. And Loretto takes care of business. And, at that point, if you're Loretto, you're doing the opposite. You're saying, oh, we won. Now we can't wait to rush to the scoreboard and see if things maybe broke our way. And they didn't necessarily break their way in terms of potentially, getting that number 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But they do come into the postseason now with a little momentum. The fact that you basically played a playoff game this week, I think will bode well for Loretto going forward. So yucky night in terms of the weather, but it was a hard-fought game between 2 bitter rivals there.
Heard that phrase from a few coaches in week 11 talking about that being a playoff game, even though it wasn't. It was. So we'll get to more of that as we go. Again, we mentioned East Hickman. They had already wrapped up the Region 5 2A championship going into week 11. They come to Summertown, the upstart. These are both Eagle teams, by the way. So we'll get that mentioned, and we won't mention nicknames anymore. But Summertown with a 14-6 victory here elevates to the number 2 spot. Again, this is a Summertown team that was 1-9 a year ago. They finished the regular season 8-2. The number 2 seed. They're going to host a playoff game this week. Cannot give enough flowers to Dan Winfrey and that coaching staff for the job they've done this year.
Yeah, heck of a year thus far. Obviously, their goals are bigger than 8-2, but that alone is worthy of celebrating. And the fact you beat East Hickman. We just talked about Mount Pleasant and Loretto. Both were, in some ways, kind of disappointed with the way the rest of the scoreboard played out. But that was all because of Summertown. Summertown was the one team that was, the fly in the ointment there for everybody. They beat East Hickman. They deny them a perfect region record. And you get to kind of, stay at home. You get to stick it to Loretto a little bit, and you kind of get to stick it to Mount Pleasant a little bit. What a night it was for these Eagles, who, if not for a hard-fought overtime loss to Mount Pleasant and then a stubbing of the toe the next week versus Harpeth, they could be 9-1, 10-0 at this point. I mean, they've had a fantastic
They could have literally
year.
been playing for a region championship Thursday night against East Hickman.
Yeah, if you win either one of those games, that becomes your region championship game. And like you said, props to Coach Winfrey, props to Summertown, total revitalization of the program. And that place should be buzzing on Friday night because that was a massive, massive turnaround and a just reward with that home game coming up Friday night.
Absolutely. Columbia Academy goes to Grace Christian of Franklin, picks up a huge 40-7 victory to secure the number 2 seed out of the Division 2A middle region. So Columbia Academy with a home game this weekend, but another solid performance from the senior quarterback, Stephen Neves, completes 16 of 22 for 252 yards. Throws for a couple of touchdowns. One of those was to Harrison Brownlee, who had 8 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. Also recovered a blocked punt, returned it 6 yards for a touchdown. So the senior Bulldogs kind of leading the way for this team as they head into the postseason.
Absolutely. And I mean, on last week's show, we mentioned 42-7, they knock off Mount Juliet Christian. Business-like performance. Last week, they knock off Grace Christian Franklin on the road, no less, 40-7. Another business-like performance. I like what I'm seeing out of Columbia Academy, taking care of business, maybe sprinkling in some, different looks on offense, giving, Baldwin a touch more rest. I do not want to tackle that guy at any point in the season, but I certainly don't want to tackle him late when he's rested. So that is a great situation. Columbia Academy is set up very well. And they did it all themselves to do so.
They are set up very well. We'll talk more about that as we go forward in the show. He did get some rest, only 59 rushing yards, only 20 carries, but, getting him off his feet this time of year isn't a bad thing because there's going to come a point where you are going to need him. Columbia Academy improves to 7-3 with that win. That was a Friday night game. The rest of these are Friday night games. Columbia Central goes to Lincoln County. Quiet as it's kept, Columbia Central has a chance at a home game with a win at the Pit and some other things going their way. Well, the win at the Pit didn't materialize. Lincoln County 34, Columbia Central 14.
Yeah, and this was one we were keeping tabs on during our broadcast on Friday night. And, Columbia Central, we had talked about, could they have another great game in all 3 phases of the game, and they probably would need to do so versus Lincoln County. And Lincoln County entered the game kind of reeling a little bit. They had suffered back-to-back losses, so the conditions were ripe for Columbia to pull that road win off. But instead, it's Lincoln County kind of finding itself, especially in the second half, and pulling away from that game. Columbia still got, obviously, the rest of the postseason ahead. They got to. We'll talk about that later. But they have to be proud of what they've done thus far. And man, they were right there on the cusp. If that game goes differently, obviously, the whole trajectory of the playoffs could look a lot different for them. But still, impressive effort because Lincoln County has been much improved this year.
Absolutely. The Falcons moved to 7-3 with that victory. They nailed down the number 2 berth in Region 5-5A behind region champion Shelbyville. Central falls to 6-4 on the year. They are the number 4 team in Region 5-5A, which matches up with Region 6-5A. And if you're familiar with these regions, you know what that means, but we'll talk more about it later in the show. Also in Region 5-5A, Spring Hill and Franklin County, the winner avoids 7th place in the 7-team region. Spring Hill playing without their starting quarterback, Cordell Isaac, who had been concussed the week before, lost their number 2 quarterback in this game, but rushed for 253 yards and 5 touchdowns and defeated the winless Franklin County Rebels 42-7. Nice win to close out the season for the Raiders over at Battle Creek.
Yeah, hats off to Spring Hill. Big win. Kind of, showing that even though we've had a rough season and even though we've ran into some adversity here in the final week of the season, we're still a prideful program. And so can't say enough props to them, because the last week of the season, 2 teams that aren't going to the postseason, anything could happen. And instead of Spring Hill rolling over, they kind of put it to Franklin County, which was very impressive to see. So shout out to the Raiders on a great way to close the year.
Region 6-6A saw a playoff game in Week 11 as Summit traveled to Independence. The winner gets the final playoff berth out of that region, and it turned out to be the host Eagles with a 30-12 victory. They blocked a punt early in the 3rd quarter, went out the back of the end zone for a safety to build on a 7-6 lead, scored off the free kick, kicked it back to Summit. Summit gets a short punt off. Independence scores there. All of a sudden, what was a 7-6 Independence lead at the half becomes a 23-6 Independence lead, and Summit just was never able to regain their footing, unfortunately, for the Spartans. So both these teams have struggled over the course of this season. They both wound up 3-7. Independence, though, has won 3 of their last 4 after that 0-6 start against that meat grinder of a schedule that we have referenced all year long.
Yeah, and props to Independence. And, if you're Summit, that one's got a sting, because the final score is what the final score is, but it especially makes it painful when you're thinking, man, if 1 or 2 plays had gone just a little bit differently, not only is this a close game, but this is a game that we feel like we got a really good shot at winning and therefore extending our season. So the fact that Independence was able to cash in, like we said, crazy things happen in the final week of the season, and the margin for error is pretty small. And if a team is capable and if a team is willing, things can turn in the blink of an eye. And it sounds like that went in favor in a big way in terms of Independence this week. So hats off to them. But also salute to Summit on a valiant close. Both teams, closing well. So that was a sneaky good game last Friday.
Absolutely. Mason McElhaney, the Summit quarterback, finished up with 322 offensive yards in that ball game. Threw for 227, rushed for 95 and a score. So he really went hard in the paint for his team. So props to that kid in particular. Region 4-3A championship matchup over in Dunlap, as Giles County makes the long trip over to Southeast Tennessee, taking on Sequatchie County, and did not go well for the Bobcats.
Yeah, very similar to the game we just described, that a few plays can turn the game in the blink of an eye. And Giles County did knock out the starting quarterback, Sam Ebbets, but the bad news is the backup quarterback, Hunter Minton, is just as capable. And by doing so, Sequatchie kind of was forced to run the ball a little more, and they had some great runs, and they had some things that went in their favor, because Giles County, trailing by 7 at the half, they drive all the way down to the goal line, and it looks like they're going to get in. We're not used to seeing Giles County get denied at the goal line very often, but they were. Sequatchie takes over, and then boom, they pour on the points. They end up winning it. Instead of a 7-point lead, they end up pulling away to win by 20. As GCHS Falls had to settle for runner-up. Their first ever region loss in Region 4 AAA.
With that loss, Giles County falls to 5-5 on the year. They are the number 2 seed. Will host to open Class 3A state playoff action later this week. Richland, Region 5 1A champions. First postseason championship for the Raiders since 1989.
Turn back the clocks, right? I mean, they are celebrating in a big way up in Linville.
As well they should. 48-21, the Raiders over the Raiders of Moore County. And Lawrence County, again, in a non-region matchup of 2 teams that have really struggled this year. Lawrence County less so than Cheatham County, but not the season that the Wildcats wanted to have, but they did close it out strong with a 49-0 win over Cheatham County.
Yep, props on them for finishing strong. They were a physical team all year, just were not able to get the key victories that they needed, but they did go out in style, send off the seniors on a high note versus Cheatham County.
Absolutely. Big win for Lawrence County to close things out. When we come back here on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, we will go through the final regular season standings. We will go through our individual offensive leaders, and we will get you ready for the first round of the playoffs. Stay tuned when we come back.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yeah, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back to the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans don't let fans drive drunk. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Before we get into the opening round of the playoffs as they relate to our local teams, let's take a look first at our final regular season standings. We will start with Region 6-6A. There we go. Ravenwood is your region champion, finished the year undefeated at 10-0 overall, 5-0 in region play as they defeated Brentwood in week 11. The Bruins finish up 8-2. They are 4-1 in the number 2 seed coming out of that region, followed by Franklin and, as we mentioned, Independence getting that 4th spot and a playoff berth. Summit and Overton round out the region. Let's continue with Region 5-5A, where Shelbyville wins that region. They defeated Tullahoma in the regular season finale last week. Shelbyville goes to 9-1, 6-0 in region play. Lincoln County, with that win over Columbia Central, secures the number 2 spot. Tullahoma is 3. Central is the number 4 seed. Again, Lawrence County, Spring Hill, and Franklin County round out the bottom half of the region standings in 5-5A. In Region 4-3A, as we mentioned, Sequatchie County, with that win over Giles County, goes to 9-1 on the year, 4-0 in region play. The Bobcats finish up 5-5, 3-1. Again, they are the number 2 seed and will host a game on Friday night. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Watertown is number 3. Grundy County is your number 4, and Community wraps up a winless season, 0-10 overall, 0-4 in region play are the Vikings. In Region 5 2A, East Hickman, despite the loss to Summertown last Thursday night, is your region champion. The Eagles 8-2 overall, 6-1 in region play. The Summertown Eagles also 8-2, 5-2 in region play. They are your number 2 seed. Again, they will host a game this weekend. Loretto gets up to number 3, followed by Lewis County and Mount Pleasant. Lewis County and Mount Pleasant tied at 4-3, but Lewis County, with that 8-6 victory earlier in the year, has the tiebreaker, the head-to-head tiebreaker. So the Panthers move on as the number 4 seed. Mount Pleasant goes home. Harpeth, Hickman County, and Waverly do likewise. In Region 5 1A, again, your Richland Raiders are your region champions, 7-3 on the year. Kind of stubbed their toe a little bit coming down the stretch, but won the games that they had to win to secure that region championship. 7-3 on the year, 5-1 in region play. Eagleville, 6-4, 4-2. They are your number 2 team, winning the tiebreaker with Huntland and Wayne County. All 3 of those teams sitting there at 4-2.
Good thing that Richland won, because we did not want to have to go through all those permutations.
No.
There was a wild draw there.
Oh, goodness gracious. I mean, if Moore County had won that game, then you've got, what, 5 different teams sitting there at 4-2?
Yeah, the official tiebreakers, there was one scenario where it was just question marks. Even the TSSAA didn't know, because it was going to come down to like wins versus teams above 500, across all the schedules. So luckily the Raiders, good for them on getting it done, because
everybody was happy.
Everybody was happy. Yeah, that is the key message,
including the folks out in Hermitage.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Wayne County is your number 4 team. Moore County, Cornersville, and Collinwood all packing up the equipment for the year. And in Division 2A, the middle region, Nashville Christian is your region champion. CA, again, is your number 2 seed, followed by Donaldson Christian. Franklin Grace gets in as the number 4. Mount Juliet Christian and Clarksville Academy are both done for the year. We've got a typo in those standings, unfortunately. Clarksville Academy and Mount Juliet should be flip-flopped. That's on me. Sorry. Anyway, I threw our producer, Kara, a curveball, because the script says stat leaders first. We went region standings first, but now we're going to do stat leaders. My apologies.
It was the playoffs, right? We had to set the tone.
Yeah, had to switch it up a little bit. Absolutely. Sorry, Kara. Our individual offensive stat leaders, we will begin with our rushing leaders, where the guy who has been at the top of those all year continues to be at the top of those. Columbia Academy senior Monte Baldwin closing in on 1,500 yards on the year, 1,454 yards, 14 touchdowns for the Bulldogs. Caleb Oates, not sure what he did against Sequatchie County, but I imagine he is upwards of 1,100 yards at this point.
And he had about 70 yards on a hard night. Giles did not run the ball very well. A lot of carries, not a lot of yards.
Yeah, tough night. Nicholas McDowell is also a 1,000-yard rusher for the Mustangs with 12 touchdowns. Lawrence County's Carter Pettigrew fell just short of 1,000 yards with 13 touchdowns for the Wildcats. Justice Haggard will get a chance to add to his 762 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns as the Lions go forward in postseason play. And you can see the rest of our area rushing leaders right there. Passing leaders. Richland's Blaine Woodard is one good game away from 2,000 yards.
Man, he continues to impress.
15 passing touchdowns, only 5 picks for the Raider quarterback. We mentioned Stephen Neves in the second segment, 1,613 passing yards, 19 touchdowns for the Bulldogs, who also move forward. Mason Tidwell, the fact that there are 5,000-yard passers in this area, kind of speaks to where the game has gone as much as anything.
Yep, got some great quarterback play, but also, the play calling. These coaches are letting their guys, they're putting trust in these QBs to go out and sling it.
Absolutely. Again, Mason Tidwell, Xavier Randolph, and Cordell Isaac are your other 1,000-yard passers. You can see the other guys in their numbers right there. Receivers, Jake Sands closing in on 60 receptions, upwards of 800 yards for the Raiders. Harrison Brownlee, again, with that big game the other night, has 744 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns for the CA senior. Kareem Bryant, we mentioned that he was a little gimpy coming out of week 10.
Didn't play against Sequatchie either. They are hoping to maybe get him back this week if Giles can somehow survive, maybe next week. But he was in street clothes Friday night.
That's a tough blow for that offense. Corbin Reynolds leads Loretto's pass catchers in yardage and catches. And Jackson Westbeld, this is tough, closes the year with 499 receiving
Oh, man,
yards.
come on. Find him a stray yard somewhere.
A yard somewhere, absolutely. 8 touchdowns for the Raider receiver. You can see the rest of the numbers right there. So those are our area offensive leaders coming out of the regular season. And again, some of those guys will get the opportunity to add on to those numbers. As we go forward in the playoffs, let's take a look at who they'll be trying to add to those numbers against. We will start in Division 2A as the Bulldogs host the Kings Academy out of Seymour, Tennessee. The Kings Academy 2-8 on the year. Both of their wins were pretty impressive. I mean, 40-plus points in each of them, but they've struggled over the course of the year, and they've struggled down the stretch, and Columbia Academy is playing some pretty good ball right now.
Absolutely. And Columbia Academy has been fortunate that they've taken care of business the last 2 weeks of the regular season. And they're also somewhat fortunate in the sense that if they show up and take care of business Friday, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't come out of here with a victory, a chance to get your guys some more playoff experience against, a relatively lighter opponent, but you still have to go out and obviously play your game because this is obviously win or go home type situation. But I like CA's draw, and I like their chances going into Friday's game.
Absolutely. The Kings Academy has dropped their last 3 games to Middle Tennessee Christian, Oneida, and Friendship Christian. CA defeated both Friendship Christian and Middle Tennessee Christian during the regular season, if you're into comparing scores. There's that. Class 5A opening round action. Columbia Central, the number 4 seed out of Region 5-5A, goes to Region 6-5A champion, 3-time reigning state runner-up, Page High School, which has allowed 2 touchdowns all year.
Yeah, we teased it in our first segment. Columbia, this is where that loss to Lincoln County really stings, because if you win that game, your playoff path looks a little bit different and obviously looks a little bit less intimidating because Page is as good as advertised. And this is going to be an interesting game because Columbia, in many regards, has kind of mimicked Page, relying on a really good defense and getting some offensive production, getting some special teams production, but really kind of hanging its hat on the defense. And that works well until you run against kind of the team that invented that, right? And so the Page, it's almost a nightmare draw in that sense for Columbia. The styles are very similar. It'll be a tough matchup for the Lions on Friday night.
Absolutely. Speaking of tough matchups, Independence opens Class 6A state playoff action over at Stewart's Creek. And, you hear about Oakland, you hear about Riverdale, you hear about Blackman. You've not heard a lot about Stewart's Creek. Let me tell you about Stewart's Creek. They are 9-1 on the season. Their only loss was in week 2 against Blackman. I believe it was 35-28. And they've not lost since. So Independence needs to take their lunch pail with them when they get ready for this matchup with the Red Hawks.
Yeah, this is a tough draw. But Independence has been playing its best ball of the season. So you at least have that going into the postseason. And when you're talking about high school kids, sometimes all they know is what they know, right? And they know they've been playing great.
Mm-hmm.
Seward's Creek's a very dangerous team, a very talented team. But Independence, kind of walking into the postseason with a little mojo here. I think this could be a sneaky good game just for the momentum factor alone. But it is a still very daunting task versus a really good and really battle-tested Red Hawk team.
Absolutely. Richland, with their Region 5-1A championship under their belt, takes on visiting West Carroll, the number 4 team out of Region 6-1A. The War Eagles, 5-5 on the year.
Yeah, 5-5 on the year. They've been up, they've been down. Just like everybody else, they took their lump to McKenzie in the final week. They just happened to get theirs in the final week of the regular season. So they come in, all of Atwood will be fired up, ready to come on and cheer them over in Linville. But Richland did what it needed to do in getting that win versus Moore County in week 11 to set itself up in this position. The Raiders missed out on the playoffs by kind of fading in the back half of the season last year. They didn't do that this year. They were able to right the ship, and they are justly rewarded with a home playoff game. Should be a winnable game for the Raiders playing at home.
All Mustangs all the time. Loretto at Huntington. The visiting Mustangs 6-4 following their win over Mount Pleasant. They are the number 3 team out of Region 5-2A. The number 2 Huntington Mustangs 8-2, included in those 8 wins are one over Columbia Academy earlier this year.
Yeah, we saw Columbia Academy really struggle with Huntington. That speaks to how good of a program they've got. They are battle-tested. And you go back to Loretto, and it's always something with Loretto and Summertown, right? And Loretto is now cursing, saying if only Summertown had done what they were supposed to do and lost that game Thursday night, we would be the number 2 seed and having a different trajectory here.
Absolutely.
That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, hey, we're in the postseason just like everybody else, and we're going to go over there and try and take care of business.
There we go. That Summertown team, again, 8-2, they will be at home as the number 2 seed out of Region 5-2A. Taking on a name that a lot of football people are familiar with, but not necessarily in a spot. Jackson Central Maury closed, reopened, is now playing Class 2A football. The alma mater of one Al Wilson, by the way. JCM coming in at 7-2. They are the number 3 seed out of Region 6-2A. And should be an interesting matchup.
Should be good. I definitely thought you were going to say the Jeff Bain alma mater, but one of those carries a lot more weight than the other in terms of football prowess.
I'm sorry, Jeff Bain and Al Wilson.
So no. You nailed the delivery there. This is a chance for Summertown to continue to do what they've done all season long, and that is play good, hard-nosed, physical football. They'll have a chance to do it at home. I'd love to be there Friday because that is going to be a raucous environment up in North Lawrence County.
Should be a raucous environment at the Brickyard as well as the Giles County Bobcats, the number 2 seed out of Region 4-3A, take on Tyner Academy out of Chattanooga, 6-4, coming out of Region 3-3A.
Yeah, and Tyner is arguably the most dangerous opponent. Giles County has won 3 straight region championships prior to this year. And all 3 of their first-round opponents were kind of walkovers. And that will not be the case. Tyner upsets Meigs in the final week of the regular season, but the scoreboard kind of got them, and that's why they fall into the spot that they're in. GCHS will have to play a very good game if they want to win on Friday night.
When we come back here on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, we will tell you who we think is going to win those games that we just discussed. So stay tuned when we come back after this.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Welcome to J&J Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. J&J Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yeah, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
He shoots, and he scores!
Welcome back to the final segment of the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, presented by 10 Pin Alley Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk. Again, that's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Let's look at our winners in Friday night's opening round of the state playoffs, starting in Division 2A, where 7-3 Columbia Academy hosts 2-8 the Kings Academy out of Seymour, Tennessee.
Coming into this game, Columbia Academy, we've seen them struggle a little bit at times this season, but the last 2 weeks, we've seen Columbia Academy kind of really put the hammer down on their opponents and kind of coming into the postseason with some renewed vigor. I like what I've seen from Columbia Academy. If there was a little hiccup here, hiccup there, I'd maybe give the Kings Academy a little bit more of a shot, but there's no way I'm going against Columbia Academy the way they are playing right now. I think they win and maybe even win big at home Friday night.
You know, the way they are playing right now, the way the Kings Academy has played, they've lost their last 3, as we mentioned. And like you said, this Columbia Academy team right now seems to be hitting on all cylinders, playing at home on top of everything else. I cannot see a scenario where the Bulldogs don't take care of business. Unfortunately, I don't see a scenario where host Page doesn't take care of business in this Class 5A matchup against Columbia Central either. Again, Columbia Central is allowing 13.9 points per game. Page has allowed 13 points
Total
all year long.
Yeah.
The sledding is going to be tough for Columbia Central, to say the least. I mean, you would feel like they have to play their best offensive game, but you're playing against one of the best defenses in the state, maybe the best defense in the state. And the thing about it is, as good as Page has been defensively, they're scoring almost 40 points a game.
Yeah, not a one-trick pony, right?
No. And now, I don't know how many defenses in the state have 3 Power 4 commits on the same unit either, because you're talking about linebackers, Eric Hazard and Brendan Ains. Ains just flipped from Wisconsin to Tennessee. Hazard is headed to Louisville, and safety William Weebush is headed to Wake Forest. So, I mean, good luck. I don't mean to disparage anybody, but you're just talking about two teams that are at two different places. Now, Columbia Central does have Indiana commit Jaravius Hall in the trenches, but it's one guy. This Page team, again, they have gone to Chattanooga each of the last 3 years. They have come back with the silver ball each of the last 3 years, and they are looking for a different shade this time around.
Yeah, you're not talking about just a great team in 5A. You're talking about maybe one of the best teams, pound for pound, across the state of Tennessee in the Page Patriots. So everything that you just said is 100% true. Columbia is really up against it. And, kind of to the point I was going down earlier, styles make fights, they always like to say, and Columbia Central could not have gotten a worse draw because Columbia Central likes to hang its hat on its defense and likes to force the issue. Their offense, they're kind of like a Page light, a Page in the making, if you will, but they're not there yet. And so I don't think they have enough to kind of overthrow the team that's kind of showing them the playbook, so to speak. I think Page wins this game. The question will be, can Columbia Central maybe try and get a defensive score themselves? Maybe can they get a special teams play to give them a short field? That's really the only recipe or path to victory in my mind. I think Page wins this game, especially playing at home, and I will not be shocked if it is another shutout.
Yeah. Independence goes to Stewart's Creek in Class 6A opening round action on Friday night. The Eagles 3-7, the number 4 team out of Region 6A. Stewart's Creek is your Region 5-6A champion. They come in at 9-1 and on an 8-game winning streak. And again, I find it tough to pick against the home team under these circumstances.
I'm picking Stewart's Creek as well. This is a game, though, that I have circled. I will not be shocked if Independence goes in and does give them a great game, maybe a little scare, maybe even a crazy win. But I can't pick anybody in this game other than Stewart's Creek just because of what they have shown over the course of the season.
Right.
Independence is hot right now, and that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't be shocked if they go in there and give them a little runaround, but I think Stewart's Creek has been better over the course of the season. I go with their body of work over the year over Independence.
Yeah. In Class 1A action, your region champion, Richland, out of 5-1A, hosting Region 6-1A, 4th place finisher, West Carroll. Again, the War Eagles 5-5 on the year, Richland 7-3.
Yeah, and I think this will be a game that Richland, they've been begging for another home playoff game after a couple years ago, one against Adamsville goes sour. And then last year, we mentioned earlier, they missed the playoffs due to their own shortcomings at the end of the year. So this is a game that fans in Linville have been anticipating since way back in week 2. They dropped the opener to Lincoln County, and then they come off with 7 straight victories before they drop a couple. Finish strong, though. I think Richland is up for this game. I don't know enough about West Carroll to give me the guts to pick against Richland at home because I think Richland is going to be ready for this one. And I think their offense is just so explosive, it'd be hard for me to go against the Raiders.
I tend to agree with you. I like Richland in this one as well. In Class 2A action, Loretto heads out to West Tennessee, taking on Huntington. The visiting Mustangs, again, 6-4. The host Mustangs, 8-2.
I got to pick Huntington here. I wish I could pick Loretto. And I picked Loretto in some crazy spots this season. They've been the most.
They're deserving.
I stand by it. They could at 6-4. They've had some of the wildest wins. They've had some of the craziest losses. They can beat anybody. They can lose to anybody, and they have a puncher's chance in this game versus Huntington. And so that is why I am going to have to take the Mustangs, the Huntington Mustangs, that is, who could be a chic pick there in 2A to maybe make a run. So give me Huntington at home.
Yeah, I like Huntington in this one as well. But to your point, they do have a puncher's chance because they have a little bit of big play ability with their passing game with Tidwell and Reynolds, and McDowell can bust one. I mean, and they can score quickly. They can score from anywhere on the field.
And that factor alone is huge to me, right?
Yeah, but in the end, I think it's the host Mustangs that get it done. I've got Huntington in this one. Also in Class 2A, Summertown hosting Jackson Central Maury. The host Eagles are 8-2. JCM comes in at 7-2. They're the number 3 team out of Region 6-2A. Who do you like?
Give me Summertown at home. I will say that the only thing I am worried about is Summertown. Man, they have a lot of emotion. They are all in emotionally on this team. And kind of like Richland versus Adamsville a couple years ago, you're playing at home. You want everything to go your way. And if you run into a little adversity, sometimes that could work against you. And so that's my only concern. But I think Summertown avoids that, and I think Summertown wins the game.
Yeah, I really like the way Summertown is playing right now, to be honest. I mean, the success that they've had all year long, the way they came back, they lost that overtime game against Mount Pleasant, like you said, and then they lost against Harpeth in, maybe a bit of an emotional hangover type situation there, but they've closed out strong. And the win against East Hickman, I was at Loretto while that game was going on, and there was some conjecture about whether or not East Hickman was playing all of their starters or whether they got some folks out, that kind of thing. But I think when you've done what East Hickman has done, I mean, this isn't a program that's had a whole lot of success, and I can't see them, not putting their full attention, not putting their full effort into winning that game and closing things out and going into the postseason with that momentum. So I just think you got to take your hats off to Summertown for what they've done. And I like the momentum that the Eagles are taking into this game. I'm taking Summertown here.
Absolutely. Another final point on that, Summertown likes to be big and likes to be physical. And if you run into a rough patch, I'm always going to take the team that is able to get big and get physical versus, a high-flying kind of gadget-type offense. So that bodes well for Summertown. I'm with you there. Let's ride with the Eagles this week.
No doubt. In Class 3A, state action, a team that we're used to seeing here, but we're not necessarily used to seeing them as the number 2 seed out of Region 4 3A. Giles County will host Tyner Academy out of Chattanooga. The Bobcats 5-5 on the year. And as we've talked about this team over the course of the season, a relatively young team under David O'Connor.
Yeah, by far the youngest Giles County team. They have multiple freshmen starting at various positions. They have multiple sophomores starting at various positions. But they got just enough seasoning among the upperclassmen to get them to where they have been. Any other team, I think that you're talking about a 2 or 3 win season max, but they were able to gut out a couple of nice wins. And, coming in, playing at home on a Friday night at the Brickyard will be a tall order, but Tyner Academy beating Meigs in the final week of the regular season would have me concerned as well.
Oh, that's right. You're not picking this one, are you?
We'll be on the air, baby, every step of the way. If we win, guess what? Giles will have to go back to Meigs, who they beat in the quarters last year. So if GCHS does take care of business by being the number 2 seed, the road gets infinitely harder compared to years past where everybody was coming to you.
Yeah. So they would travel to the number 1 seed.
Yeah,
right?
Likely going to Meigs and then likely going back to Sequatchie if they're able. This is going to be a very hard-fought game, and Giles County is vulnerable playing at home Friday night.
I struggle to pick against Giles County at home in particular. Now, I've not seen them play this year, and I know that, this is a young team, as we just said, and this isn't necessarily vintage Bobcat football, but I think they've got enough tradition in that program that I just don't think they're going out in the first round at home. Give me Giles County.
Would not be shocked. This to me is the ultimate toss-up game because if Giles County comes out and plays well, yeah, they could easily win this game. If they come out and they fall behind, that is a big red flag going forward. So should be a good one. We hope everybody tunes in to Pulaski Citizen Live. We'll broadcast them. We'll also broadcast Richland and West Carroll. And That's kind of the beauty of the playoffs. Just all you got to do is, Coach O'Connor likes to say, is survive and advance. Doesn't have to be pretty. If you can get out a win at home, ugly versus Tyner Academy, you'll take it.
I'm gonna tell you a little secret. David O'Connor stole that from Pat Sonnet.
There we go. Pretty good person to steal it from.
If you're gonna steal from somebody, there are worse. Yeah. I like Giles County in this one. Those are our predictions. Last week, we didn't do great, but we didn't do badly. And I was 6-3 on my predictions. You did not pick a winner between Giles County and Sequatchie County, so you were 6-2. Well, we're kind of rocking right along. It's not bad. We're both upwards of 70% accuracy on our picks. So
been a good ride this season. The games that stood out to me, man, props to Lincoln County because they were wobbling coming into the final week of the regular season, but they were able to battle back for the big win. And then massive shout out to Summertown, just continuing to be one of the great feel-good stories across all of high school football here in the state of Tennessee.
Absolutely. Looking forward to catching up with Dan Winfrey actually on Thursdays, Main Street Sports Today. So be sure and tune in for that. Thank y'all for joining us here on the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show, presented by 10 Pin Alley, Eat, Play, Party, and by the Tennessee Highway Safety Office, where fans don't let fans drive drunk. We will see y'all next week as we continue to talk playoff football right here.
This is the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show with your hosts, Maurice Patton and Wade Neely. Proudly presented each week by our friends at the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk. This is the Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show with your hosts, Maurice Patton and Wade Neely. Proudly presented each week by our friends at the Tennessee Highway Safety Office. Fans, don't let fans drive drunk.
Hello, I'm Rick Whitley.
And I'm Daniel Pollard from Jones and Lang Sporting Goods. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for the many years of support. Since 1966, Jones and Lang has been locally owned and operated and supplying teams from T-ball to college. Stop by and see what we can do for you. We offer a wide variety of services from silk screening and embroidery to our custom trophy and awards department.
We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and Saturday, 9 to noon. Remember, Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand?